Good afternoon, with you as always Eugene of God. Today we will talk about arthrosis. The fact is that this problem occurs in a very large number of people. And our medicine does not want to pay attention to this problem and is trying to treat it with all sorts of pharmaceutical preparations. Now I will explain the reason for osteoarthritis. Osteoarthritis is an atrophy of the articular surface of the cartilage. You know that all the articular surfaces, because of rubbing against each other, are surrounded by cartilage. So atrophy of this cartilage, its lack of nutrition, this is arthrosis. As a result, in case of arthrosis, after the cartilage atrophies, various changes begin to compensate, for example, bone growths. They are secondary compensatory and are not a direct cause of osteoarthritis. The only cause of osteoarthritis is atrophy of cartilage. A is the absence, nutritional trophos, that is, a decrease in the height of the cartilage is associated with a violation of its nutrition. You know that any person, if he is fed, he is plump, pretty. If you stop feeding at all, it means that he becomes thin, and continues to lose weight. And then it becomes a walking skeleton. That's about the same thing happens with any of our tissues that are no longer fed. Why does cartilage stop feeding? The fact is that articular cartilage is one of two soft tissues that are in the high-pressure zone. The second such tissue is the intervertebral disc. These soft tissues have features of their nutrition. Which one? You know that all tissues feed on blood. That is, the blood brings nutrients to the tissues. Due to this, the tissues both live and multiply, and the cells of the tissue grow. But blood flows through the blood vessels. But in these two soft tissues, in articular cartilage and in intervertebral discs, there are no own blood vessels. Because these soft tissues are in the high-pressure zone. If there were their own blood vessels, they would simply be crushed, because the tissue is soft. And it is in the high-pressure zone. Therefore, it is impossible that there were vessels. But should tissue be fed? Must. How? And that's why there is a feature of nutrition of these tissues. That is, these tissues feed like a sponge. If we squeeze a sponge, it gives all of itself. If we stretch a sponge, it absorbs everything. That is, in order for the cartilage and intervertebral disc to feed, there must be squeezing and stretching, squeezing and stretching. Exactly when there is compression and stretching, then only cartilage is fed. Therefore, under certain conditions, the nutrition of this cartilage may be disrupted, and this is not due to the fact that there is something worn out, because any living tissue cannot be erased. You can conduct an experiment. Sit down and rub your palms like this. Erase your hands. Never in my life. At least 5 years of doing this. You know, before, laundresses washed clothes by hand. Have you heard at least once that someone from the washers who rubbed their laundry for 20 hours a day? This can never be the case. So this is the greatest folly if a person thinks that living tissue can be worn out. Nothing to wipe in a living organism cannot. We are a self-healing system. This is a living tissue. That is, if you take in the car some pieces of iron that rub against each other, then they can be erased, yes. But in a living organism, nothing can ever wipe. Therefore, if you come to the doctor, who says that your articular surfaces have worn out, run away from such a doctor. So, a person simply does not understand at all what is at stake. Why is it important? And this is important for one simple reason, because if you believe such a doctor, who said that we have worn out the articular surfaces, then if they are worn, what can you do? Already nothing can be done. Then the only way, again, to believe this doctor, and go change your own, living joint to an artificial joint, there is no other way. And if you understand that there is no abrasion there, an atrophy occurs, that is, an eating disorder, with which it is connected, I will explain to you now. then you understand that in order for this tissue to recover, it is alive, you will start it feed, and she will recover again. To restore this tissue, you just need to restore its nutrition. That's all. And then your own native joint will recover itself, without any surgical intervention, and without artificial joints. Why is cartilage nutrition impaired? Because we said, there are features of its nutrition. It eats like a sponge. That is, it must constantly shrink, stretch, shrink, stretch. Why is this compression and stretching broken? After all, we are moving. However, osteoarthritis of the knee after 40 years is almost every second, and violated because there is one simple thing. Bones in the joints move the muscles. And if the muscular balance is not disturbed, then the bones stand like this. The articular surfaces must be congruent. Then it turns out, if the surfaces are compressed, then the cartilage is compressed, stretched, constricted, stretched during movements. That's when he will eat. If the bones stand somehow differently, like this for example, then during the movements all the pressure falls on some small spot. At this point, the cartilage will simply be crushed mechanically purely, and the rest of the articular surface will not feed, for the simple reason that there is no compression and stretching. Here's the cause of osteoarthritis: the wrong position of the bones. Who keeps the bones in the joint? Muscles. Who depends on how the bone will stand? From the muscles. If the balance of muscles here and here is the same, then the bones stand correctly. Then the movement will be full, and there will be no arthrosis, because the cartilage will feed. If the bones with an imbalance got up like this for example, here the muscles are tense more than here, then it turns out that there is no nutrition, and arthrosis starts to develop from here. Therefore, if instead of restoring the correct muscular balance and proper movement in the joint, you start to inject blood into the blood of any chemistry, chondrolone, chondroxin, heaps of expensive drugs, then besides losing a lot of money, you will not gain anything. Because the problem is not that there are few nutrients in the blood, but the problem is that the nutrients from the blood do not come here. Therefore, your task is not to engage in any nonsense. Do not poison your body with chemicals. Your task is to put the bones in the correct position. So this will be the correct treatment of arthrosis. Accordingly, if you maintain the balance of muscles in a normal state, then it will be the prevention of arthrosis. This is all you need to do. Most often the most basic problems are, since we walk all the time, we have a hip joint and a knee joint. How to relax the gluteal muscles, I have written in the book Pain, so now I will not stop at this, and the knee joints relax very simply. The main problem that causes osteoarthritis of the knee joint is the tension of this anterior thigh muscle, the quadriceps. It is very easy to relax. You need to get up, holding something with your hand, bend the leg at the knee and unbend at the hip joint. It is with this movement that we get the stretching of this quadriceps, this front surface of the thigh. And 2 minutes like this statically stand. Literally after the first execution of this exercise, if you have pain in the joint, the pain immediately goes away. In any case, you will feel a significant relief instantly, literally in 2 minutes. If you do this exercise every day, that is, to relax this muscle, in this case, you simply remove your arthrosis of the knee joint, and your legs will move fully and without pain. Here is what I wanted to tell you about arthrosis. Good luck to you.